Thank you, Nick. And guys, today our scripture reading is coming from Matthew 6, verse 25 to 34. Of course, I'm not going to read it all to you, but to sum it up, talks about see how the flowers of the field grow. And that's 6 and 28. Now, it goes like this. The devotion goes like this. How often do we notice the vast array of colorful flowers in God's creation? Just a short walk through a woodland or park will show us black-eyed Susans, irises, buttercups, wild lilies, and columbines. To name a few, the creative genius of our Creator is truly amazing. In today's verses, Jesus points to the magnificence of flowers. Not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. So if this is how God shows care for a flower, how much more does our Father in heaven care for us humans, the crown of his creation? As we might examine the beauty and intricacies of a flower, this is how God looks at us. We do not have to worry about meeting some artificial or worldly standard of beauty. We're all precious in God's sight. In addition, because God provides so beautifully for us all, we can bloom where we're planted. Some flowers last just a short time. Others, like the petunias in my garden, bloom until the first frost of autumn arrives. God, who has created each of us as a unique individual and redeemed us through the blood of his Son, enables us to show forth his love, compassion, glory, and life. Some of us may have a short time and others may have a much longer time to bloom, but we all can display the beauty of God's love and care because God himself sustains us. Our prayer for today. Forgive us, Lord, for worrying about what to eat, what to drink, and what to wear. Help us display the beauty of your work in our lives. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys for listening and have an awesome time painting. Now I'll give you back to Nicole.
So give us a few minutes. We're just going to get things all switched around here. So I'm just going to switch out on my little chair. And then we're going to get started here. So I hope you have your canvases ready and that you've got all of your paint mixes done. So just let me know when we are good to go. You've got everything in frame.
You are good to go.
Yes, hi. I want to say hi to all of our students who are also tuned in on our YouTube channel. So that's TLC Arts on YouTube. So you can watch us there every Saturday at 2 p.m. as well as on our Facebook page. And you can check out TLC Arts on Facebook as well to see all of the wonderful artworks that we produce every week. So let's get started. So as I mentioned today, we're going to be doing Lilies of the Field. I want to say thanks and bye to Dalton. I'm going to get my handy little IKEA cart here. So I do not have an example for you today because I actually gave it away as a donation to one of the schools in my island, Dominica. So they are the sample that I would have had. I actually packaged it up and had it sent down there to kind of spread some of the TLC love around and the gift of art, and to share some of our God-given talents with my brothers and sisters back on island. So thank you to TLC Arts for their generous donation as well to Dominica. So we are going to get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting in our background. Then we're going to need a few minutes to dry, and I'll just kind of chit chat through that part. And then we will get started with our actual flowers. So we are going to try hydrangeas today. So I had asked you to mix up some purple. I have like just purple from the Dollarama. But if you don't have purple, you know that you can mix red and blue with a little bit of white, and that should give you a good violet purple color. And if you want it to be more lavender, then you would just add a bit more white and so forth. The other color we're going to be using today is blue and yellow. So you can do any sort of color, how should I say, you can use any color scheme that you like. So you could have had red and orange and yellow. You know, you can think of complementary colors. If you've got a color wheel, that's always a good way to go, and that will show you what colors are complementary, what colors are contrasting. But in this case, I just decided to kind of go with a more deeper tones for my hydrangeas. And then what we'll be doing are some leaves and some vines and things like that to kind of help fill it up a little bit. So we are going to start with our background color. Now for the background color, I would like to do a mix of gray and green. And there's two ways that you can lay in your background color. You can use a paintbrush, and I do have one here, and I'll be sort of demonstrating using both techniques. Or if you're looking for a bit more texture, you can use something like a sponge, or I've got here, what are these little scrunchy things? So these have the little holes, so when you put it on, you get sort of an interesting design. But you do want something that will cover over the white of your canvas. So I'm going to do a mix of gray, as I mentioned. So of course, I'm just going to go with some black and some white. See if I can find got my little palette knife here that I'm going to use for my mixing. And then I'm going to use probably a lighter shade of green. So I'm just mixing up my gray color here using my handy little styrofoam trays as my palette. And as we all, Joan and I always tell you, you can use just about anything for your palette. You can use a paper plate, or if you want to, you can buy a proper palette from anywhere from the Dollarama to one of the higher end art supply stores. I want to say hi to Joan and Christine. We've had quite the year, and just want to let them know how much I appreciate them, and to thank them for all the hard work that they've done on the TLC Arts team, visual arts team, helping to produce the programming, as well as to teaching you how to create all of these wonderful works of art that we've been doing all year round. And as I mentioned before at the top, we will be taking a break for Christmas and be back in early February. So we're going to take a long break so that everybody can kind of get a good rest and just relax their brain and come up, let the Holy Spirit plant some new artistic ideas in our heads. So I'm going to go with a lighter shade of green. Again, if you have dark green, just mix it up with some white. I'm going to make my gray a little bit darker. I don't want it too dark. We're looking for a light gray. So, as I mentioned before, if you've got your brush, just dip it just enough to wet it, squeeze out your excess. If you have tissue, which is highly recommended, you can use it for squeezing out your excess as well. So I'm just making sure I don't have too much water. Now I'm going to touch some of the gray with a bit of the green, and I'm going to start with the gray in the corner here because I want that to be kind of the lightest area. So this is going to be where our light source is coming from. So as you can see, it creates kind of an interesting soft textured look to do it this way. I'm going to take a touch more white. It's just a very soft, beautiful color. Come around the sides of your canvas for continuity. Tiny touch of the green, and you get like a little bit darker as you move into the middle of your canvas here. And we will want this to dry completely before we lay our flowers down on top of that. Everybody's doing good? I'll try not to go too fast So the next thing we need is, well, what I'm going to do actually is, so as you can see, that's the look you get with your brush. But I also wanted to try with the sponge and to see what kind of texture we would get with that as well. So you do get more coverage with the sponge, and you can blend that out a bit as well. I'm also going to try it with my little scrunchie thing. I just want to see what that's going to look like. So you don't have to do this. I'm just experimenting a little bit as we go along. So that's interesting too. You can actually see the netting, a bit of the net design from the scrunchie. It's not a scrunchie, it's a scrubber, you know, like a body scrubber. A loofah. A loofah. Thank you to everybody who just said, that's a loofah. So it's okay, but it doesn't quite give as much coverage as I would have liked. So I'm going to switch back here to my sponge. And if you prefer, you can stick with your paintbrush. So I just wanted to show you that there's different techniques and you can get some very interesting looking shapes and textures depending with different tools. So I have seen Jay Lee Painting, who's another artist on YouTube. I've seen him use foil, bunched up foil to also get some interesting designs and patterns as well. As some people use cling wrap, you know, they just ball it up and then they just dip it in the paint, and you can get some interesting textures as well. So I'm really kind of liking the sponge because you get more coverage in a faster amount of time, and that's kind of where I'm going for with this. So we would like this section to be the darkest area of our painting because the light would be furthest from there. So I'm going to just pick up a little bit of black. I'm going to go in for a bit more green. And then I'm just going to switch back out to my paintbrush. No particular reason. Like I said, you can use any type of tool that you want to. This is just sort of the background. So I just did that to kind of show you that you have different ways that you can do things. Never be afraid to experiment. What you're looking for is maximum coverage. You want there to be no part of your canvas showing. just gonna come back up here, fill in that spot there. It is best to use your biggest brush when you're doing the covering for the back, your backdrop. If not, you could be here a long time, especially if you are not just doing broad strokes like this. If you're doing what I'm doing here, it is better to go for your bigger brush, unless of course you are looking for really fine type of brush strokes. So here we have sort of an abstract backdrop here. I'm just right now making sure that I cover all of the white portions of the canvas. However, in this corner I do want it to be a bit more light, because I want to show that this is where the light is coming from. Alright, so we're gonna let that dry for a bit, and then I'm going to explain what our next steps are. Also want to say hi to Naomi and to say thank you for doing the devotionals for Christine's Craft. So Naomi has been doing the devotional portions of Crafts with Christine and doing such a wonderful job. And also for those of you who are not subscribed to her channel, I think she does have a YouTube channel. She does these morning and evening devotionals as well as video devotionals. So be sure to check her out, Naomi E. And you'll be really blessed by her insight into the Word of God. So thank you, Naomi. Wonderful job. Also want to say thank you to Sonia, who did a wonderful rock painting or stone painting session for us, and that was just so very creative and interesting, and just wonderful designs. So that was really a nice departure for us, and a way to kind of expand our mind and expand our scope as to what we can do with painting. So for our hydrangeas, so again, this is all about showing you different techniques today. We have two things we can do. We can either use, I have here some styrofoam, no, what is it? Bubble wrap. Yeah. Some bubble wrap that you can use as the backdrop of your hydrangeas to kind of get the shape that we're looking for. Or if you are really steady with your hand, you can also use a paintbrush. So I will be doing both just to show you how you can manage that. So you can either go around in a circle like this, or you can apply paint to the bubble wrap and then just sort of tap it in place, and that will give you the shape that you're looking for. So I got this idea, I believe it's from Ranjita Anup, who is also a very talented YouTube artist. So I'm just trying to figure out here. So you want to figure out where you would like your hydrangeas to be. I suggest that they sort of be staggered, so that you wouldn't put them like next to each other, because that would look a little too uniform, and they don't tend to grow like that in nature, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna sort of stagger them a little bit, so I'll probably put like maybe just like two sort of together, and then a third one at the top, and then we'll draw in the stalks afterwards and all the foliage and everything. So we're pretty dry here. So I'm going to do it two ways, as I mentioned. The colors I'm using today are purple, yellow, and blue. So I'm going to paint, apply the paint to the bubble wrap. And of course I'm using the part that actually pops. if you wanted to do different colors in the same hydrangea, this is kind of a cool way to get that done as well. Because you can just color one part of the bubble wrap in one color, and then you can apply your secondary color or complementary color or whatever it is you're doing on another section of it. For today, I'm just going to paint it all over. The idea is that you want to get the gaps, the spaces in between the bubble wrap as part of your design. So this bubble wrap I've got here is pretty old, it's been popped. So it's better not to have them popped already. So then that way they hold their shape and you'll get the design that you're looking for. So let's see what we got. So I didn't request for you to have this as part of your class for the students, but I just wanted to show you that if you've got kids perhaps that you want to try this with, this is one way to do it as well. So let's give it a try. So we're going to come maybe down here. And we're just going to press that in and smooth that out. And there you go. It's pretty cool. So I'll do one more for my blue, and then for the purple one I'll just, oh no, I did the purple. For the yellow one I will use my brush for that. I've got no camera person, so I've got to check. We're still rolling. Just wanted to make sure. So same idea. So you're just going to color the bubble wrap end. Spread it out, not too thick. I've done mine a little too thickly because then that way they kind of fill in the areas that are not raised and or embossed, I guess. So you want to just sort of spread it out a bit so that you get the little gaps in between. It is a little bit messy to handle too, so be prepared. Alright, so for this one, oops, I'm just going to go over here. So like I said, you don't want them like all on the same level because that looks a little too uniform. Okay, then carefully peel it away. Yeah, so as you can tell, I had way too much paint on that, so I'm going to have to let that dry. So less is more if you're going to use this technique. Pardon me. So for the final one, which is our yellow, I'm just going to use my paintbrush. And this is for the people who don't have bubble wrap or don't care to use bubble wrap. So what you want to do is you want to use a round brush. Thinking I might want to switch this brush. And yeah, basically you just maybe come around here and you just get the shape that you're looking for. because of the sort of green background that we've got going on, yellow is kind of disappearing, so you may want to, if you try this again, you may want to go with orange or red as a more contrasting color, because I find this is kind of blending it a bit. However, I love my background, so I'm cool. And of course you can, you just want it to be roughly the size of the other shapes that we've got going on here. Yeah, and there you go. I'm going to try to get a bit of this blue off because it's too thick. Just going to use some tissue here. So you could go ahead with your paintbrush and put in your background layer here. There we go. If anybody has any questions, I will be monitoring WhatsApp, so feel free to post them, and of course on my Facebook Live, my page here, stream, sorry. Feel free to let me know if you've got any inquiries. So we're going to let this dry a bit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come in and sort of fill in some of these areas, but we're going to use a slightly lighter shade of the same color. So we're going to come in with a bit more lavender maybe, and here a lighter shade of blue, and same thing with the yellow. In the meantime, what we could do is we could draw in our stalks, which will be for our hydrangeas. So I'm just checking, this might be a bit too small. And for that, we'll switch over to our green. So we're going to go with our darker shade of green. And we're just going to start at the bottom, estimate kind of where the center of our stalk is, our center of our flower is, and come straight up like this. The same for over here, sort of figure out where the center is and go straight up. You don't want your stalks to be too thick. Looking for about maybe half an inch wide, I mean. Now for this one, you're going to have to sort of estimate. And it's going to come through this other stalk. We will probably do some leaves and things, so you don't have to worry if it doesn't come out perfectly straight. Alright, so we've got that going. So the key is to let things dry in between. we're going to be doing next is using our next tool, which will be our cotton buds. So I would have asked you to get these together. And what I did is I basically put them into a line. I hope you can see that. And I just have some rubber bands kind of holding them together. So you don't necessarily want them bunched up like this. You kind of want to spread them out a little bit so that it gives you a bit of range with what you're going to do here. So for my purple, I'm actually, for my purple, I'm actually going to go back in and fill in some of these gaps because it's a little too thin. I hope daylight saving time hasn't been as confusing to you as it has been to me. I don't see the logic of it, but came and found it, so here we go. I still get really confused. Who's ahead of who and all of that. So I'm just gonna pick up a little extra paint, not too much, because I do want this to dry, but I'm just filling in some of the gaps here. There we go. There we go. So the next thing we're going to do is, this is still not as dry as I would like it to be, but we're going to charge ahead. And hopefully things will still work out. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the shades that we're working with, and we're going to lighten them just a little bit. So we're going to take, for example, this blue, we're going to add perhaps a drop of white or 2 drops of white. So let me work on that and see how that works out. And then we're going to use our cotton buds to put that color in. So I'll show you in a momento. Where's my palette knife? Just get it. Oh. So we're going to add a touch of white. So, because what we want is a slightly lighter shade than the blue we're working with. And then we're going to do the same with these other colors here. If I had the time, I would go back in and put a heavier shade of yellow on that, just because, like I said, it really is not popping out of the green as much as I would have liked. Taking just like a drop of the blue, and I'm going to use my paintbrush. No, sorry, I'm going to use the cotton buds to lay in this next color. So going to take the side that's sort of in alignment here. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to dip it in the mix of blue and white that I've got going on here. And we'll see how that shade works. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you the progression of light as it shines on the flower and all of the different highlights that we should get. So I'm going to start from here. So this is still a bit damp, so I'm going to have to mix some more white. And we're going to come to about halfway of our stalk. We are going to come in with an even lighter shade of blue a little later on. Try to open them up a bit so that it's not all clumped together. Okay. Now I'm going to use, so you actually needed 2 of these. So I would have told you in the comments in any case. So we're going to do here, we're going to take some of the yellow and we're going to add a touch of white to that as well. So we just want a slightly lighter shade of yellow than what we've got as our base. So let's see how that looks. So and again, we're going to come to about, maybe about halfway. Okay. And we're going to do the same for our purple here. Same technique. And we're going to take our purple, add a touch of white to that, so that we've got more of a, I guess, kind of a lavender type of color. And we're going to come around like this. And there, that's perfect. So the best thing to do really is to wait and let things dry. Sorry for the extra noise, I'm not sure what's making that. Let things dry and wait before you add on your layers. So I just want to advise you, and I'll put the note down in the comments as well so that you'll see that I prefer if you wait until every stage is dry before you move on. But we don't have that kind of time today, so I'm just going to go ahead and do what needs to be done. So I'm actually going to put my cotton buds down because they're going to be too wet, and I'm going to switch over to my paintbrush. But for you can just wait, like I said, wait in between the stages. Let the background dry. You can wait till it dries a little bit more, and then you can use your cotton buds. Come back in with your slightly lighter color. Let that dry, and then wait a bit more, and then come back in with your final light color. So what we're going to do in the meantime is we are going to start working on our stalks. which should be a bit dry. I'm going to switch brushes here. I'm going to switch to a more round brush, and I'm going to go back for a green, if I can find it. This thing is supposed to be keeping me organized. Oh, here it is. And because there's so much of the canvas showing through, I'm actually just going to put another layer of green here. And just go straight up like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of foliage in here. So we're going to start adding some leaves and vines that seem to sort of be, the backdrop of our flowers. So we'll probably start maybe about quarter way through our blue flower, and we'll start doing some tendrils like this. As Teacher Joan would say, drag and lift. And you can basically put these anywhere that you care to. And maybe we can even have some coming from sort of like off the canvas. Maybe another one. Sorry, another one from the bottom here. Just crisscrossing. And then we can start putting in some leaves or some foliage. Now, I'm going to confess I'm not the best at doing this. However, the technique is to sort of drag your brush like this and let the brush shape be the shape of your leaves. I've seen teacher Christine do this really well. I'm going to just try to emulate her style a little bit. If it really is not working, you can just draw in the shape of your leaves. Thing to remember is that you can either have them on the same side, but I think it looks more realistic when you've got them kind of alternating. This one didn't quite work out. It doesn't just come back over it. For this one, we can do some larger shaped leaves. And you could switch over to a thinner brush if you wanted to get more fine work in your details. So we're just doing some bigger leaves on this stalk. And all we're really doing is we're just trying to create a little bit of interest and contrast by not having the same type of leaves, the same type of and the same size of leaves. Sorry, I hope this isn't confusing. I'm sure that everybody's leaves are gonna be better than mine. They better be, because that's why we teach is with the anticipation that you will outgrow us, outstrip us, and that we can then learn something from you. Anywho, and you can do the same thing. You can change the size of your brush. You can actually go for either a smaller brush or a larger brush. But again, we want this kind of shape, sort of round head brush. So I'm just going to switch over to a different size brush just for a different shape of leaves. Going to use the same technique. It's kind of dragging and drift, drag. This one I will do the leaves on opposing sides. And don't worry if they're not like perfect, because we will come back over and we will add some light for contrast, and hopefully that will take care of any little errors. Not a professional, folks. So this is a good opportunity to kind of practice drawing leaves. Okay. So what we're also going to do is we're going to add some little white flowers just for a bit of contrast. And we're going to do that, or try to do that anyway, similar to the way we did our leaves with just pressing down and dragging. I'm going to use some white, and let's see how that goes. So we'll probably kind of fit them in along our little vine here. So I'm just going to do 2, 3, and 4. If you want to do 5 petals, it works too, or 6, however you like. And again, I'm just sort of pressing down like this just letting the brush take the shape, determine the shape. Again, ideally you would want to wait until the vine is dry. So I'm trying to avoid actually touching the vine and just sort of laying these flowers kind of close to it. Just touching the tip of the brush. You do want to kind of group them a little bit so it doesn't look so unnatural, because these type of flowers do tend to grow in clumps, I guess you call it. And it looks like we're getting a bit of a rhythm here. I'll just put maybe one more here. And of course, if you didn't like how it came out, you can always go back over and do it again. All right. Now our stalks are drying, our leaves are drying, and we will come back in and add some light to them. As you can see, I sort of forgot to put some leaves on this one, so we're going to do that one too. I leave these vines up to you, how many you would like to put in. It's just your aesthetic taste. I'm going to try these leaves again. So upside down. Sorry, these a little too much water on my brush. Okay. Leaves. So what we're going to do now is we are going to come back with our cotton buds, and we are going to put in the final color on our flowers, and this will be the lightest shade. So whatever color you're using, so blue with maybe twice as much white as you put in for your lighter shade of blue. So if you put like 1 drop of white to the blue to get this shade, you're going to add 2 drops now. Let's see. So I could be a little bit brighter. Again, try to hold them sort of like in a line. And go. Okay. Alright. We're going to do the same for your yellow and your purple. So whatever you added to your yellow to get that super light yellow color, now you're going to add even more white. Again, if you don't have to use cotton buds for this. You could just use a brush, a fine end brush. So we're going to come back in now. And we do the same for our purple over here. So as you can see, the yellow, did need to be a bit brighter. So I would recommend that, and I'll mention that in the comments as well. So we're looking for our purple now. And we want our lightest shade of purple. See what we have here. Yeah, there we go. And we're just gonna put this final color kind of towards the very end, and that is to show the light coming through. Okay? And if you wanted to, you could add even a little bit more white. I'm just taking back a little bit of adding a little bit of the purple, because I think it went a little too white for me. Okay. this one is a little bit, give me a little bit of trouble. So the best thing to do is to just kind of let that dry, and then I'll go back over it again with the white. So because I want this to really pop, I'm going to add back in. I'm going to add in another layer of yellow on the other side of it. So then that will really kind of stand out. I'm just going to. And you can use your brush. If you don't really like the look that the cotton buds are giving you, you can always go back in with a brush. But it is better to use the cotton buds, because then that way you get the sort of little gaps in between. So, and of course letting it dry is the best thing. So the final thing we're going to do is to we're going to mix a bit of white to our green, and that is to show, actually we could just use our lighter shade of green, or if you don't have that, you can just add white to your green to get a lighter shade. And we're just going to show that the sun is hitting all of our stalks on this side, or the light. Hopefully you're dry. We're going to take our small brush, and we're just going to come up on this side. And just about halfway through your stalk. And what this will do is, like I said, it will show where the light is hitting your plants. And you think about where the light is hitting your plants, so you'd want it to be on the edge of your greens. well, the edge of your leaves. So it wouldn't take over the entire leaf, right? It would just be like touching it here and there. And of course, the further away is the less light you'll have. So you'll have less and less paint on your brush, but that works out perfectly because you're getting further away from the light. So not too much light would be getting down to these areas here. And only on the side that's facing the light. By the time you get down here, there should be like no light at all. So I've got too much there, so I'm just gonna take it back with some extra green. If you wanted to, you could also go over your stalks again. All right. So that's pretty much it. So again, the key thing to this is the drying part of it, letting each stage dry. So as you can tell, in some areas, I've got a better dry and a better finished look than others. So that's basically the key to it. And of course, remember to sign your name at the bottom, because we are proud of our God-given talents and we are very happy to develop them for His glory. So and that's it. All right, I really hope that you enjoyed this paint class. I think it is the final one for TLC Arts for the year, and the next time we are back we will have something very special for you, so look forward to that. Look out for messages in our WhatsApp chat, as well as on TLC Arts Facebook page and on the Lakeside Church Toronto's Facebook page as well. So everybody, God bless you. I hope you enjoyed our hydrangeas of the field and as well as our devotional, and I will see you next time. So from Joan and Christine and all of us at TLC Arts, we love you. God bless you.